Good morning. I hope that everyone's doing well. Before we start today's lesson, I just want to give a rundown of what we're doing this week. First of all, you have 3 IXLs that are due today, okay? They are going to be your the 3 classwork assignments for this week. Aside from tomorrow, you will have a Google Form review practice test, okay? So tomorrow I'm not going to have a video for you. You're just going to have the Google Form practice test. You can work on 2 of the IXLs tonight, 2 of the other one tomorrow, whatever you want to do. I'm not going to check the IXLs for completion until after Tuesday anyway, okay? So when you do them is up to you. Again, a SMART score of 85 or above, or a half an hour for whichever topic if it takes you longer, okay? But hopefully it shouldn't take that long to complete those. Today we're going to talk more about slope, and we're going to continue with what we left off last week. For the warm-up, or for what we're going to start with, I want to talk about writing an equation for a line that passes through the point 3, -7, and has a slope of -4. So this goes to what we started talking about last week, where y equals mx plus b. And we really have 3 parts to this equation. Yes, we have 4 variables. 4 variables or 3 parts. You can look at it either way. Because an ordered pair is 1 part. It has 2 variables. It has an x and it has a y, and a slope is an m. So here we have y equals mx plus b. B is the only thing that we're missing in order to write an equation in slope-intercept form. Okay, so here what we're going to do is we're going to plug in -7 for y equals the m of -4 times an x of 3 plus b. And we're actually going to use algebra to solve for b. So now we have -7 equals -12 plus b. We add 12 to both sides, and we find that b equals 5. So now we know that m equals -4 and b equals 5. So our equation is y equals -4x plus 5. And that's exactly how you do it. Whenever you know a slope and an ordered pair, you can use that information to find the y-intercept. If you know an ordered pair and an intercept, you can find that information to find the slope. Technically, an intercept is an ordered pair, so that should give you everything you need to know, because 2 ordered pairs would give you a slope. All right. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is, the second thing I want to talk about is writing an equation in slope-intercept form. So this question asks, what is the slope of this linear equation? Well, we would know what the slope is if this were in slope-intercept form, which this is not. But that doesn't mean that we can't put it in slope-intercept form. All we have to do is solve for y. So in this equation, we're going to use all of our 5 steps: combine, split, isolate, inverse, check. Well, I'm not going to go through the check step today, but what we can do is first we're going to try to isolate the y. So we want to solve for y. The first thing we're going to do is get rid of the x. That's going to be by subtracting 2x from both sides. That will give us -3y equals -2x plus 15. We're almost solved for y, except we have a coefficient of -3. In order to do that, we're going to divide by -3, and we're going to divide everyone by -3. Okay? What that leaves us with is y equals -2 divided by -3 is +2/3 x, and then 15 divided by -3 is -5. Now, we didn't need to find the y-intercept in this, but why not? If we're going to go that far, we might as well go one more step. And so we find that the slope is 2/3. Okay? Question number 31 actually asks us to write this equation in slope-intercept form. There's actually only one step to do this, and that is we have the 5x on the wrong side. We want it on that side. In order to do that, we're going to subtract 5x from both sides. And that's going to give us y equals, now it is 10 minus 5x because we subtracted 5x, but we can write that as negative 5x plus 10. This is the same thing, except this is slope-intercept form, so there's your answer for that question. And then number 32 asks us again to write this equation in slope-intercept form. My goodness. All right, this is a two-step because while we are going to isolate the y quickly by subtracting 3x from both sides, the problem is we don't have y equals, we have negative y. See how this is a negative y? So we have negative y equals negative 3x plus 9. Then we have to divide everyone by a negative 1. And we get y equals positive 3x minus 9. And there's your answer in slope-intercept form. All right, on to the meat of today's lesson, and that is still having to do with slope, but having to do with a certain type of slope. So here we have a line, right? And this line, if I picked any 2 points on it, I'll pick this point and this point, it has a slope of up 2 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it has a slope of 2 over 5. Now, one thing that's going to be on your test is it has to do with similar triangles. All they're asking for on that is, do you see how when I went up 2 over 5, if I had decided instead to go from this point to this point, it would be up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So it would be 6 over 15, which equals, when we divide both by 3, 2 over 5. So the key here is anytime you're finding slope by going from one point on a line to another, what we're doing is we're creating what are called similar triangles. Remember, similar triangles means they have the same shape but a different size. The sides are in proportion to each other. That's why they're similar. Now, this line has a slope of 2 over 5. If I drew any line anywhere on this graph that was parallel to this line, I know that wasn't quite perfect, but anything that's parallel is going to have the same slope. So what we can conclude by that, if I take that and I have it here, or I don't know if I move this down here or up here, anywhere I move this, right? See that line? See how it's the same? It's just, so anywhere where it's going to be parallel, this line is going to have the same slope. So what we can conclude is that all parallel lines, which are lines that never intersect, will have the same slope. So here we are, we have it as parallel lines all have the same slope, okay? So connecting what we did in the warm-up with what we just learned right now, if we want to determine if two lines are parallel, it doesn't matter about the intercept. Well, actually, the only thing that matters about the intercept is that they're different, because any two lines that have the same slope and the same intercept are the same exact line. So we're really, though, looking for the slope. We're looking to see if the slope is the same. If the slope is the same, they are parallel. All right, so looking at this one, this has a slope of 3. This has a slope of 3. Therefore, these two lines are parallel. Sounds easy enough, right? Well, here's where it could get possibly just a little bit trickier. This is in slope-intercept form, so it has a slope of -4. This line is not in slope-intercept form, so I'm going to give you 3 seconds to think about what you think we're going to do in order to figure out its slope. You got it. We're going to put it in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to divide by 4, divide by 4, divide by 4. Everybody gets divided by 4 here. And we've got y equals 1x divided by 4 is 1/4 x plus 3/4. Again, The y-intercept doesn't really matter. We're really looking at the slope. This has a slope of 1/4. Therefore, they are not parallel. Okay? This is in slope-intercept form. It has a slope of 2. This is in slope-intercept form. It has a slope of 5. Since the slopes are not the same, they are not parallel. Finally, this is in slope-intercept form. It has a slope of 3/5. This is not in slope-intercept form, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in slope-intercept form, divide everybody by 5. That gives me y equals 3/5 x minus 2. So this has a slope of 3/5. They have the same slope, therefore they are parallel. And then last but not least, there is one question on your test like this, and that is you are going to be given, you are going to be told that there is a line that is parallel to this equation, or not this equation, but parallel to an equation and goes through that point. Well, all we're going to do, if we know that a line is parallel to this equation, then that means we know it has to have the same slope. So here we know we have a line that has a slope of 3 and passes through the point 4,7. Well, now that means that gives me enough information now that I have an m, an x, and a y to find the b. So we put in y equals mx plus b. The y is 7. The m is 3, equals 3. The x is 4. We don't know what the b is. 3 times 4 is 12. We subtract 12 from both sides, and we get -5 equals b. So now I know what the y-intercept is. I know what the slope is. So I know the equation is y equals the slope 3x and the intercept of -5. Let's practice that again with the second one. We know that it's parallel to this, so it must have the same slope. If it has the same slope as this, it means that the slope equals 1, and it passes through this. This is an x and a y, so that means y equals mx plus b. 3 equals 1 times -2 plus b. 3 equals 1 times -2 is -2 plus b. I add 2 to both sides, and I find that 5 equals b. So I know that the y-intercept is 5, the slope is 1, so my equation is y equals 1x, or just x, plus 5, and that's how we do that. And then finally, if we're parallel to this equation, that means that we have a slope of half. And if we go through this line, we have one x value of 4 and one y value of -5. So we type in y equals mx plus b. -5 equals half times 4 plus b. -5 equals half of 4 is 2 plus b. I subtract 2 from both sides. I get -7 equals b. Means we have an intercept of -7, a slope of half, so our equation is y equals half x minus 7. And that's how you do it, okay? Feel free to review these notes as many times as you need, okay? But remember, there are parts to slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. The x and the y stand for any ordered pair on that line. The m stands for the slope of that line, and the b stands for the y-intercept. So if you have an ordered pair and a slope, you use those 3 variables to plug in to find your one missing variable, which is your b. Okay? Work on these IXLs. Tomorrow, you're not going to have a video lesson. I'm just going to upload the practice test. On Wednesday, we're going to meet. We're going to go over the practice test because you're going to get your real test for this week. Your real test will be a Google form. You have one shot at taking it, okay? But the practice test I made to look exactly like the real test, with the exception of I didn't include one of these questions, so make sure you understand this, okay? I will see you all on Wednesday. Have a great week.